Person in Person is brought to you by the Perineum Group, the only truly centrist news organization.
That's right, Greg. We're in the sweet spot between partisan extremes, when tain't the left and tain't the right.
It's Perineum.
Tonight, on Person in Person. Cloaca ice cream!
Cloaca? I hardly knew her.
Mayor, did you put your name in the goblet of fire?
Where's Balldo? Hold on. What's Balldo?
You're alive, huh? That's just what a zombie would say.
If you're happy and you know it, pin your boss.
All these stories plus weather, sports, food crime, and a pop quiz. That's tonight
on Person in Person.
Good evening, wherever you are, whoever you are, and welcome to Person in Person. I'm Gene Person.
And I'm Greg Person.
No relation. Person in Person is a news show for people who don't like news shows, by people who don't like news shows. So, as of January 20th, the United States of America has a new grandpa.
Well, I haven't heard much about our new national grandpa, but I hope that he's not one of those weird handsy grandpas.
I hope so, too. Former Secretary of State Pompeo declared China guilty of genocide, which they are. Just like Saudi Arabia. Confirmed ally of the United States, and indeed the United States itself.
It's true. Nobody genocides like we do, honestly.
And in other news, COVID is quickly evolving. New variants are popping up all over the place, so get those Pokeballs ready.
No, in this case, folks, you do not, in fact, have to catch them all.
Oh, that's good.
In fact, if you could try to catch none of them, that would be great.
In a bit of housekeeping, Person in Person is still a show in its infancy, and we are continuing to fine-tune the format. Starting next week, we're going back to 6 stories in main news, moving the bonus stories to Patreon-exclusive content. Emotional weather and sports will remain the same, as will food crime, and we'll be debuting a new weekly segment next week to take the place of that bonus content. But enough shop talk! It's main news! Our first story tonight. In northeastern China, 3 ice cream samples have tested positive for COVID-19. The ice cream samples, chocolate, strawberry, and taro, were submitted for food inspection when they tested positive. All foodstuffs shipped by the company were tracked, including everything in the supply chain. 1,662 employees were quarantined. So far, none of those employees have tested positive for the virus. It's likely to be a quirk caused by the fat content in the ice cream and the storage temperatures. But COVID ice cream is a real thing, so what say you, Greg?
Man, don't take ice cream away from me, please.
Right?
It's like the one thing I still love.
If COVID gets into apple pie or any pie, I'm going to be pissed. The ice cream was made from milk and whey powder imported from New Zealand and Russia. They're examining all avenues of how this could have happened, but a part of me suspects it might have been the Grimace.
Hold on, the Grimace doesn't want us to have ice cream?
I just get real supervillain vibes from him, and it sounds like some crazy thing that a giant purple supervillain would do.
Well, so this does not extend to the McDonald's McFlurry. Is the McFlurry still safe?
I have no idea. The assumption authorities are making is that it's due to hygiene in the actual factory in China, and that it's unlikely that it's in any of the ice cream we have in the West. Which, though may be true, is cold comfort for this intrepid reporter. Because, are they even testing Baskin-Robbins for coronavirus? If it's 31 flavors and 1 secret ingredient, folks, I'm out.
See, I'd be okay with it if it was 30 normal flavors and then 1 was COVID, if you just wanted to try it.
Oh yeah, just so people want to get it over with, want to do that herd immunity thing, can just get that out of the way.
Or maybe it's the vaccine flavored ice cream.
Oh, nice. Look, we happen to be alive at a time where just a whole lot of stuff has been taken from me, In addition to, the freedom that I used to experience because of the pandemic, I also am no longer able to consume alcohol, and a good share of the gluten that I used to eat is no longer even available in my own home. If they take away my ice cream, I might end up losing weight. And really, the last thing America needs is for me to get any sexier, Greg.
Well, and you're rocking this young Santa Claus thing so good that, if you turn your back on that, you're going to disappoint a lot of children.
Yeah.
Here's some science news if you're ready.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, scientists have discovered the perfectly preserved petrified poo-poo pee-pee hole, or cloaca, of the Psittacosaurus, a small triceratops-looking guy from the Cretaceous period.
Ooh.
Yeah, they found a fossil with the butthole intact, including the coloration of the butthole. Apparently, Psittacosaurus had a much darker butthole, which might have been part of its courtship display.
Interesting.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying it always works for me, You
can get yourself all gussied up for me. You can put on a tight skirt or whatever. That's fine. But you really, really want to get me invested? You show me the butthole.
Exactly. If you're just, looking to be attractive on a temporary basis, yeah, but a deep, lasting relationship is founded on the butthole. We know this.
It really is.
Now, apparently, this particular dinosaur's butthole is not perfectly preserved enough to tell whether it's vertical like a crocodile or horizontal like a bird, which, learning that is the first time I learned that those animals have different butthole shapes.
I think it's easy to assume that they were going to have some differences because one of them will see you after a while, and one of them is not unlike Nelly Furtado.
Like a bird, yeah. Yeah, I got that one. I understood that reference because I'm young. You want to hear another interesting fact about bird buttholes?
Yeah, let's do it.
Birds and dinosaurs, some of them have penises, and they procreate by penetrating the cloaca, but some birds do what is called a cloacal kiss, which is where they just touch their buttholes together, and the genetic material is passed that way. It is absolutely insane to me that animals in the same class could, one subset has genitals and one does not.
Yeah, and you know what? Say what you will about Cloacal Kiss, but I think that Rock and Roll All Night is still kind of a great party anthem.
Yeah, Detroit Rock Cloaca. I love that song.
Yeah, super good.
Now, I can't personally decide whether I would like to have one hole for all my excretory functions. Mammals are the only animals that don't have cloacas. And biologists reckon that it has something to do with the fact that we carry our young live and we want to keep the genital area further away from the excretory area if we can, so we don't want to cross those streams to prevent infection of the placenta.
That makes sense. We're also kind of wet and warm bodies and might be more prone to infection. I don't know that that's the case. We're the casting class of the animal kingdom. Our armor is tissue paper compared to, say, a pachyderm.
Yeah, but for damage dealing at a distance, you cannot beat human beings.
Oh, hands down, DPS heroes.
I'm just saying, because, sure, elephants have tusks. We invented tomahawk missiles. What?
Boom! The mic is dropped. Oh yeah, we also invented the mic.
That's true. Sorry, guys, because that's how we do podcasts. So, there was going to be some negative blowback eventually.
And blowback should feature pretty prominently in a story about cloacas. Hey, because this is... Does this qualify as butt science? Because I feel like we might be back in the butt science sweet spot here.
Oh, this is absolutely butt science. It's literally scientists looking at a fossilized butthole.
Ladies and gentlemen, we did it! America! We did it! The dream is real! It's anal science!
She blinded me with anal science. All right.
In Dickinson, Texas, a suburb of Houston, The mayoral race ended this week by simply drawing the winner's name out of a hat. In an odd turn of events, the two candidates tied both in a runoff election and subsequent recount, each garnering exactly 1,010 votes. So they put a couple of ping pong balls in a hat and ceremoniously declared one of them the mayor. Both candidates were prepared to accept the results of the sorting hat. The community is home to 21,000 people, so what's up with voter turnout in Dickinson, Texas?
Yeah, it sounds like they're kind of killing it.
Right, Texas, where they try to make voting as inconvenient as possible. I'm surprised they didn't settle it with like a chili eating contest or something, given that it is Texas.
Everything's bigger in Texas except for voter turnout.
Frankly, given the tone of the news I'm seeing both here and abroad, I'm surprised the article I read didn't just paint it as a microcosm reflecting the steep division between right and left in the USA.
Well, but on the other hand, it's a small town mayoral election. Who really gives a shit? Like,
that's true.
I don't even know who the mayor is in the town that I live in.
Honestly, I think it might be someone named Chad. We had a bunch of Chads on our ballot this year. Here in America, we'll argue about just about anything. And if there's one thing Americans love more than anything, it's voicing their opinion on a choice where their opinion doesn't matter. And I'm no exception on this. I know my limitations, Chad. In this story, it's an actual mayoral title, so unfortunately dogs are ineligible for this office. All right, on to our next story.
Now, Gene, have you ever used a Balldo?
I'm not even sure I know what that is, Greg.
That's okay, because it's brand new. Balldo is the world's first sex toy that allows you to penetrate your partner with your balls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was the thing we were all missing out on, apparently. Now, do you know how it works?
I don't, but I imagine it's quite painful.
Well, it's supposed to feel great. I'm going to reserve judgment. But what you do is you take the receptacle portion of the Balldo, you stretch it over your boys, and then there's on the other end a dildo-y portion, and you just pound away with that part. Now, this is supposed to be fun for everyone and not a succession of violent impacts to your most sensitive area.
Okay, good to know, but I still, just imagining it sounds so painful to me.
Well, now if you don't use the Balldo, you're going to miss out on the elusive Ballgasm, which is a sensation none of us have ever experienced before, and which is not elaborated on in any of the promotional material, but is supposedly amazing.
I've never had a Ballgasm. I've had a Billgasm, which is when you come in several centuries simultaneously. But this was before the goddamn phone company took all the booths away.
All the testimonials about how great the Balldo was seem to have been from British people, which made me wonder if they're even familiar with how we do it in the more usual way, or American style, as they would call it if they knew about it.
Yeah, I don't know what British advertising laws are, but I feel like just by virtue of being British, like everything involved in this is suspect.
Yeah, buying a British sex toy is like buying a French car.
Right.
It's just they're just not cut out for it. But you know they call it, or they would if they knew about it. They call it American style, the way that we do it, by just putting junk in each other instead of trying to put dildos on our balls. You remember that show Love American Style?
Yeah, I do.
That's what that show is about. Yeah. But I do want to let you know, too, because I know you're probably on Amazon right now, rushing out to buy a Balldo. Balldo is also the name of a game for the Nintendo Switch. So make sure that you've got the right one in your cart, because you screw that up, it doesn't matter which one you wanted, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, my Nintendo Switch has given me so much joy. I want to give my Nintendo Switch a Ballgasm.
Now, I'm not sure that's okay. I'm not sure that's legal.
Oh, is it not?
The machine, well, I think you can buy machines to facilitate your orgasms, but if you try to give a machine an orgasm, I don't think that's legal.
Talk about Joy-Con drift.
I don't know what that is, but I like that phrase. It's a beautiful turn of phrase. So what's our next story?
Our next story, Jeanne Pouchain, a French woman, was declared dead 3 years ago. A Lyon court declared her dead in 2017, even though no death certificate was produced. After a legal dispute with a former employee who was seeking compensation for losing her job in 2010, judicial errors sort of snowballed, and it jumped from court to court. Each court either dismissing the suit outright or declaring it outside their domain. Ultimately, an appeals court just kind of decided randomly that she was dead. Since then, she's been unable to access her bank account or receive health care, and because she, quote, died with outstanding debts, she's had her car repossessed. What a nightmare, huh? She's been fighting 3 years to be declared alive. She says most days she doesn't even leave the house. She just sits on the veranda and writes, which is what I imagine every French person does, living or dead.
Oh yeah, I mean, think of the level of ennui you have to hit to be dead and yet alive. It's very French, this whole thing.
Yeah. Now, some persons would take this story as an opportunity to poorly pronounce French words, but I'm not naming any names. I'll just say, mon Dieu, this story is a doozy.
Okay, so we lost our listener in France, Claude. Claude, désolé. Désolé. It will not happen again. I promise.
I mean, ooh la la.
Oh, Jean. Zut alors. We're canceled in France now.
I mean, that's okay.
Yeah, it probably is.
Her case is further complicated by the fact that to appear in court herself, she has to be invited in.
Oh, that's very funny. All right. So, fresh off of the Balldo story, I want to tell you about another gadget that sounds like an absolute nightmare to me, but in a very different way. This one's called the Mood Beam. It's a bracelet with a happy and a sad button, and you can press it to let your boss know how you're feeling so he can look after your well-being while you're working from home.
We really are living in an episode of Black Mirror.
And the thing is, that's weird to me, is that this technology is apparently a big hit with the workers in the trial, because this is still in like a beta testing kind of a stage. But I think the reason for it is that the program is voluntary, anonymous, and there are no repercussions for reporting unhappiness.
Oh yeah, right now.
Right, exactly. That's my point, because if this thing becomes more widespread, none of that's going to be true.
Right.
I mean,
it's just another way to track workers.
And, let's think for like 5 seconds about how Walmart is going to use this technology. Every 5 minutes, you press that happy button or you're fucking fired, my friend.
Right. I'm so angry right now.
And they're going to use this. Corporations are going to use this as a metric to show their level of worker satisfaction. People are going to say, well, what do you mean they need higher wages? What do you mean they need benefits? They're 99% on the happy button. These are the most ecstatic workers that have ever lived.
And you know who's going to eat that shit up? Congress.
Oh, they're going to love it because they love these technological data-driven solutions where they're like, well, can't we just make an app or something that links to a spreadsheet? And could the
it's absolute,
absolute
bullshit. I'm so angry right now.
Well, here's the thing. This is meant to be for work at home workers. So only those of us who work at home, like for example, you and me,
and everyone. It's a pandemic.
Right. Exactly. And but I'm sure it'll trickle down to the essential workers soon. Soon, we're all going to be wearing a mood beam, and just hitting that happy button every couple minutes so we don't get fired.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
It's really, if you think about it, it's just another layer to the same kind of emotional labor that you have to do if you've ever worked. And I know you have too, because we used to work at the same place. You've worked directly with customers, and you know how absolutely forbidden it is to share your true feelings with a customer for even a single second.
Yeah. I'm a little calmer now. But I by rights shouldn't be.
Well, just keep hitting that happy button, man. You'll get there.
I just heard about this new button that makes everyone happy. I just wanted to say, fuck happy.
God, I love a brain candy reference.
All right. Our last two bonus stories in the main podcast coming up next. A Chinese restaurant called Aunt Dai in Montreal, Canada has gone viral after the menu descriptions described as incredibly honest trended on Twitter. Excerpts include, comparing to our General Tso chicken, the orange beef is not that good. Anyway, I'm not a big fan of North American Chinese food, and it's your call. And for the sweet and spicy pork strips...
Hold on, that's written on the menu?
Yeah. This is the number one choice dish ordered by Chinese customers across whole China, according to an internet survey, and I totally believe that. When I was in China and went to a restaurant, I always ordered this dish. It's so popular that it has many different versions in China. Since I have such high expectations on this dish, not a huge fan of our version, to be honest. But don't get me wrong, the plate at our restaurant is very tasty too. It's just very different from those where I went to university. The owners are being lauded for their honesty, and I have to admit, it's really refreshing.
Hold on, that whole thing was written on the menu. That incredibly long digression about all the versions of this dish this person has ever eaten, that was printed on the menu.
I mean, it's not a direct quote, but it's pretty close.
See, and I think we got to take a road trip, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. The tweet received over 73,000 likes and 12,000 retweets. So, frankly, Guy Fieri isn't the only one who can help out the restaurant industry. They can help themselves, too. I'd love to hear Guy Fieri's honest descriptions of his own food. This baked potato made me bust a nut in a rent-by-the-hour motel on the wrong side of the tracks in Flavortown.
Spraying donkey sauce. No, fuck. Okay, well, I definitely do want to eat at this restaurant. I would love a restaurant who really, really told me what they think of their own food.
Yeah.
Because if they were brutally honest and they said, you know what, this is pretty good, I'd be like, well, hell yes, I'm going to order it then, because you've been shooting me straight all night long. You tell me this is pretty good, I'm going to love it.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Now, sort of the other end of the spectrum, not so much brutal honesty as vaginal discharge, but not the kind of vaginal discharge you're thinking of. So you might know that Gwyneth Paltrow has created a candle that smells like her vagina. How do we know it's her vagina? Because it's called This Smells Like My Vagina. Not a vagina, but my vagina.
Okay.
So, Gwyneth Paltrow, I stand in awe of you as ever, has an ego the size of the sun and burning as brightly. But the downside of this vagina candle, there was a woman who won Gwyneth Paltrow's vagina candle in an online quiz.
Mm-hmm.
And when she got it and lit it, it exploded in her living room in a huge shower of flames and sparks.
Well, that candle smells like some bomb-ass vajayjay, because bomb.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, bomb. No, I got it. I don't even know if I should have picked this story, because talking about Gwyneth Paltrow's vagina this much is making me profoundly uncomfortable. But the good news is they did manage to contain the conflagration and throw it outside, but they did want everybody to know that there was a risk.
Sure.
It also, apparently, as I was researching, I found this out, costs $75 for a candle.
Wow.
Now, I don't buy candles, and I'm poor, so I have no idea if that's too much for a candle, but it sure as hell seems like it. And it's definitely enough money to make a candle that doesn't explode, I would think.
I mean, a $1,000 iPhone can explode too, so maybe not. I'm not sure what the price point is.
Yeah, and I don't buy those pieces of shit either. Well, this is why all I ever buy is wool clothing, because it's warm, it's soft, and it doesn't explode. But according to the makers of the candle, you've got to make sure to trim the wick down to 1/8 of an inch before you use it. Which is apparently the same protocol for Gwyneth Paltrow's vagina.
Jesus. That's a good joke.
I'm pretty happy with that one. I really am.
Question. When do they debut the candle that reads, "This smells like my cloaca"?
You know what? Trick question. That candle debuted 65 million years ago.
Oh, fantastic. Marvelous. Beat us to the punch. Folks, that's it for main news. On to the emotional weather.
Greetings, gentle listeners. If you enjoy this podcast, you may also like Brose, a mirthy talk show starring 4 bros who sip wine and consider questions submitted by you, the audience, about current events, pop culture, and which Muppet you should get tattooed on your back. Subscribe to Brose wherever you get your podcasts. That's BROSE. Brose, the podcast for those who drink rosé.
Our 3 emotions this week are brave, grave, and Dave. I'll go ahead and lead off here.
Okay.
My choice for brave, Maya Gabeira, a surfer from Brazil, surfed a wave that measured 22.4 meters. That's 73.5 feet. Meaning she surfed the largest wave ever ridden by a woman and the biggest wave measured at all in 2020. In doing so, she broke her own Guinness record, which was previously 68 feet. She nearly died in the same spot in 2013, but forced herself back out there after a recovery involving 3 spine surgeries and nearly constant pain. She wants to break every record she can, which is a little bit crazy, extremely dangerous, but leading an important and exciting path, and I think she's a badass. I celebrate her bravery.
That rules. You're riding a wave as tall as an office building. That's like,
yeah.
You're looking at the world from a vantage point that only gods know. That rules. Well, I want to tell you about a guy who is inspirational to me because you know how I feel about my dog, right? Like,
I do, yeah.
Way too emotional, codependent relationship with my dog. And I know this, and I'm okay with it. So don't anybody give me any shit about it. But 4 years ago, Greg Tonkins of New South Wales, Australia, he was out pig hunting with some mates and some dogs when he saw a full-grown male kangaroo had his dog in a headlock.
Oh, no.
Yeah, well, apparently this is how kangaroos defend themselves from dingoes in the wild, is they wrestle them to the ground. And so that's where the headlocking comes in. So
yeah.
he had Greg's dog in a headlock. So Greg had no choice but to jump out of the Jeep he was riding in, run toward the kangaroo, and box the kangaroo. He had no choice. Now,
so he got into a fight with a kangaroo on purpose. This guy is brave.
He did. And you can see the video. He gets into a boxing stance and just throws a couple of jabs at the kangaroo. You know, he's not trying to knock it out or anything. He's just trying to distract it from the dog, which works. Because the kangaroo is confused by Greg's unorthodox fighting style, so he flees into the bush. And zoologists, of course, they say, you know, you definitely shouldn't punch any animal, and I'll agree with that. Mm-hmm. But they also say, as they're analyzing this video, that Greg was the one in real danger, and he was damn lucky he didn't get disemboweled by the kangaroo's kicks.
Yeah.
Because that's how they fight each other, and they do not play. This kangaroo was about 6 feet tall, 170 pounds. So, I mean, it's as big as a man, and he wants to fight.
Right, and you don't just confront any kangaroo. What if the kangaroo happens to be Kangaroo Jack the Ripper?
Right. I mean, if he reaches into that pouch and pulls out a serrated blade, he's jumped it up a notch. He's escalated this fight.
Or an army of killer squirrels. Like, you don't mess with Kangaroo Jack the Ripper. You don't do it.
There could be anything in that pouch at any time. I've in fact heard that sometimes in his pouch there is yellow cake uranium from Nigeria.
Oh, goodness gracious.
In this case, though, man, dog, and Roo were all unharmed. So I say, good on you, Greg, you fair dinkum. Tell me about something grave.
In East Africa, swarms of desert locusts are soaring due to climate change. The insects known for wiping out entire food supplies have plagued Yemen, Kenya, Somalia, and Ethiopia since 2019. Plus, they're an actual biblical plague. The FAO is reporting on the urgency of the disaster that these bugs are leaving in their wake. With the pandemic going on, efforts to rein in the pests have been incredibly complicated. They're gonna need help. And if you're capable, we would like to urge you to please donate to Action Against Hunger. I'm including a link in this week's show notes. Seriously, people can't feed their livestock, and they can't eat the crops themselves because the crops are disappearing. If you can, please donate.
That is quite grave. I actually feel kind of stupid about the one that I picked for grave because I don't think it's very grave at all now, but soldiering on. This is a story that didn't really fit the category, but I was terribly interested in it, and I wanted to throw it in somewhere this week, so here it goes. Now, a theoretical physicist from Harvard, Avi Loeb, believes that the oddly shaped and very quick celestial object Oumuamua, which came through our solar system a few years ago, was an extraterrestrial probe or spacecraft. Now, and he talked about it at the time, and he's talked about it since then, but he's written a book that's just come out to lay out his case, which I would encourage you all to read. It's I haven't read the book yet, but from the interviews I've read with him, I definitely think there's something unusual going on. And I mean, everybody agrees that it's unusual. And for a long time, scientists couldn't actually agree that it was a natural object. Most of them have come around to the idea that it's just a strange sort of comet that they can't identify. But they kind of have to say that because as much as we like to think that, science is about, bucking the orthodoxy and always telling the truth and going where the facts lead you. It's also a job. And if you start saying wild shit at your job, you're going to get fired no matter what your job is. Unless you're Johnny Knoxville. Then you say whatever you want. But scientists have an orthodoxy that they have to adhere to too. So even if there are some who think, well, I don't know what it is, but an alien spacecraft is as likely as anything else. Those guys are going to start getting looked at as kooks. So I understand why not everybody wanted to jump on this bandwagon. But Avi Loeb, he calls them like he sees them. I appreciate that about him. Unfortunately, as far as Oumuamua goes, you can't see it anymore because it's too dark and too fast and too far away. So whatever it was doing here, it's done it already.
On to Dave. My choice, an unlikely name for the choice of Dave, Bruce McCulloch. If you already know why, we can be friends. McCulloch, one of the original members of the Kids in the Hall, some might say the funniest member, that some would be me, is known for his offbeat music and spoken word performances. A favorite among these is his infamous track, The Daves I Know, in which Bruce talks about the many Daves in his life, from early friends to his paperboy. Bruce highlights Daves like nobody before or since. He's probably the best Bruce I know, thanks to the Daves he knows.
Better than Bruce Campbell?
Oh yeah, by far. Don't get me wrong, I love me some Bruce Campbell, but Bruce McCulloch, he would win that match in terms of my favor in a heartbeat.
That's a tough call for me. Frankly, I was surprised when you went with the Kids in the Hall Dave that you didn't go for Dave Foley. But that is kind of the obvious move, too.
I like Dave Foley just fine, but my favorite kid from the Hall is Bruce McCulloch.
I would be hard-pressed to pick a favorite, but if I had to, I would say probably Scott Thompson, because I'm a Buddy Cole man.
I love Scott Thompson, too. I don't know. You know me and my attraction toward deadpan humor. There's just there's no way around it. Bruce McCulloch, he just tickles that old funny bone.
It's true. Well, I mean, it's a great show, and kids out there, if you're too young to have seen it, or even if you're old like us and it's just been a while, go watch some Kids in the Hall. It's a great show.
It really is.
Now, I want to tell you about a Dave from the 90s that I love. It's the 1993 Ivan Reitman romantic comedy Dave, which I don't know if you've seen this one.
Oh, yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah, Kevin Kline plays two roles. He plays the sourpuss president who has a stroke and goes into a coma. Not so nice. But then he also plays the sweet and goofy presidential impersonator who takes over the job. Mm-hmm. Sigourney Weaver, whom I absolutely love, because that's another one for gentlemen of a certain age. Sigourney Weaver made a big impact on our generation. And
certainly.
She plays the First Lady. She is wonderful in this because she starts out as very icy and cutting toward him when she thinks that he is the jerk president who's her husband. But then, of course, becomes very, very sweet when she sees what a sweet guy she is, and that's what causes her to figure out that it's not actually her husband. And the plot goes in all kinds of crazy twists and turns. Frank Langella is in it. Bonnie Hunt and what's his name? Charles Grodin. Whenever I see Charles Grodin in a movie, I'm like, well, this movie's going to be at least pretty good because Charles Grodin's in it.
Right.
Bonnie Hunt and Charles Grodin are both in this movie purely by coincidence, the same year that they're in Beethoven together. So, I don't know, just a piece of movie trivia that stuck out of my brain. It kind of occurred to me to watch this movie again because, as I understand it, we do have a new president now. And when I was little, when this movie came out, I thought that if a good person was president, he could make the world a better place. Which, as an adult, and frankly, even as a teenager, I understood that that was a child's dream. But film is about fantasy, and this is a really good one. So if you haven't seen Dave, watch Dave.
Yeah. It's good for a few laughs, if nothing else. As you know, every week our investigative team presents a detailed and harrowing story on food crime. This week, Greg Person has the story.
Folks, I want to talk to you about Bulletproof coffee. Now, I know you've heard about it because it's an internet tech bro thing, and so, of course, they have a disproportionate share of the media and the national conversation. So whatever dumb shit they get into, we all have to hear about it.
That's true.
So it's coffee with butter, coconut oil, and palm oil in it, which is basically harmless unless you're watching your intake of saturated fats, because this will do you no favors on that score. The issue I have with it is that they recommend a cup of Bulletproof coffee in lieu of a balanced breakfast, which no nutritionist agrees with. Liquids are terrible for feeling satiated, so your stomach's going to be rumbling by 10 o'clock, no matter how many calories of fat you put in there in your coffee. Made as directed, a cup of Bulletproof coffee is 450 to 460 calories. So it's a considerable amount for something that's not actually going to keep you full and has basically no nutrients in it.
Yeah, you're better off going to Starbucks for the same number of calories. Just to make...
Right, and at least there it tastes good.
Right. Just make sure you brew your Bulletproof coffee with raw water that's been sitting around for a month or two, and I think the problem will take care of itself.
Yeah, there's plenty of vitamin A in that algae, folks. Just kidding. Don't do that. You'll die.
Right. I know someone who actually drank Bulletproof coffee. He worked at the company that you and I used to work for. I think he was gone long before you joined the company, but I did know someone who swore by this stuff, evangelized it like crazy.
And there are a lot of devotees of this who will say that it supercharges your brain, that it kickstarts your metabolism. The thing is, scientifically, none of that has been borne out as true. So believe it if you want, but it's probably the placebo effect. Also, the special beans that they sell you, literal magic beans, which are supposed to be specially without pesticides or mycotoxins, they're not actually any different than any other commercial coffee beans you can buy. Because guess what? All coffee beans are washed before they're packaged, and the washing removes the mycotoxins and the pesticides that they say are not in these beans.
We've secretly replaced his Bulletproof coffee beans with Folgers crystals. Let's see if he notices.
That's the thing. You literally will not. And the founder of Bulletproof Coffee is a tech bro named Dave Asprey. He both propounds and has fallen for any number of ridiculous startup douche health fads because he believes that he is, thanks to the variety of miracle cures that he is engaging with on a daily basis, he believes that he is aging at 1/4 human speed. But I have seen this guy, and he is not. I'm not being mean. I'm stating a fact. He looks exactly his age.
Yeah, I don't feel like you're being mean.
So,
I'm just laughing at the claim because it seems like that always accompanies shit like this. Some kind of, I mean,
right.
It's ridiculous.
Well, it's because we live in a culture that disproportionately rewards people who do computer shit. People who are really good at computer shit believe that they are world-bestriding titans with intellects beyond those of mortal men, and that they have solved these questions like, why do we grow old and die? It's because we drink the wrong kind of coffee.
Sure.
I mean, now I am actually going to get a little mean because this in itself is a pretty horrific burn. He is so full of shit that even Joe Rogan, who is happy to proclaim himself a dumb guy and is indeed one of the most credulous people on planet Earth, has called this guy out for some of the claims that he's made. And he won't call anybody out for anything.
Right.
So I guess the takeaway is, normally I'll tell you, don't eat this, whatever. This time I'll say, put a bunch of fat in your coffee or don't. I don't care. It's probably not going to do you any harm. But I will say, it's not breakfast. It's not going to give you superpowers. And don't give any money to goop brain tech idiots.
Sure. Folks, it's sports. Our sport this week is Outhouse racing. Brought to us by the Florida of the Midwest, Michigan. Michigan has brought us the delightful sport of outhouse racing. The rules: 2 pushers, 2 pullers, and 1 rider in an outhouse on skis. Toilet paper and a paper towel dispenser must be included as well. The sport started in 1993, held on the last Saturday in February. Contestants typically build their own outhouses, so it's got kind of a Pinewood Derby thing going for it. The outhouse is pushed 150 meters in the snow toward a finish line. There are different age brackets, so there are a number of different races held during the day. The entire day is themed around toilets because Michigan just loves to celebrate toilets. And there are even toilet seat design contests, a chili cook-off, and other festivities. All in all, it seems like good fun. But going back to episode 1, this is a theory. Maybe the poopatrator took a dump in the mire because all the toilets were racing toward the finish line.
Yeah, well, not to mention the fact that there was probably a shortage of toilet paper around this time of year, too.
Yeah, certainly.
But, I think I could win something like this because of the fact that you build your own outhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I actually, when I was a scout, I loved the Pinewood Derby, and I actually won one year the whole shebang because I'm so good at building little wooden cars. And if I can translate that skill set into toilets, it seems like it should be 1-to-1, then I've got a real shot here.
Maybe. If you have a good set of pushers and pullers around you, you might just be right.
Do you want to pull my outhouse, Gene?
I thought you'd never ask, Greg. On to our next segment, the pop quiz. Joining me in the studio for our next segment is the lovely and talented Gil Person. Welcome back, Gil.
Well, I've told you this many times. It is Jill with a G.
All right. Are you excited about your first pop quiz?
See, I think there was some misunderstanding because I thought this was a PAP quiz. And, in these times of COVID, I did have to miss my PAP exam this year. I'm all suited up for this. I even put on my special socks.
I just thought it was like date night or something. I'm sorry, Gil.
Did you warm the speculum? Because it can be a little uncomfortable if it's cold. I just hope this isn't going to be like that time where I knew the person who was giving me the exam outside of that. Like, we were friends. We were in Rotary together. I mean, that's a little bit weird to have somebody stick their fingers there and then talk to you about business over lunch.
I think you're going to find this particular exam a little easier than ones you've had in the past. Because today's pop quiz, POP, P-A-P, is regarding the Venture Brothers, a show that I know you love. In fact, we both love it so much, we made it a part of our wedding.
I mean, I've loved this show since I was in high school, and that's how long ago this show started. I mean, I'm not going to age myself or anything because it's not real appropriate to ask a woman's age when you're giving her a PAP exam, but that's just where we're gonna go with this.
All right. I wish you much luck on the next 6 questions, which are going to feel more like 20. And go team person.
Go team person.
Okay, question number 1 is a multi-part question. Complete the following quotes. Hank, stop writing blank.
Oh, stop writing the... It's like the man, the most like beautiful man in the world, or something like that.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and accept it. It's Hank, stop writing the perfect man.
That's right.
Next quote. It feels like someone with a fever is yelling at...
My crotch.
Oh, it's my pants.
I'm very disappointed. As a PAP exam, we should be talking more about my crotch.
All right. Next quote. But he's in blank.
But he's in Depeche Mode.
That's correct. Do not be too hasty in entering that room. I had blank.
Is it referencing the food or the poop?
In a way, both. Do not be too hasty in entering that room. I had...
Taco Bell for lunch.
Did somebody lose a baby? Blank.
Ignore me.
Perfect. Okay, and now my other favorite line from the series. Looks like you got a little herpy on your lip. You been kissing your wife's ass after I put blank?
After I put herpy in it.
Close enough. All right.
So I'm disappointed because one of my favorite lines, and I know it's something that when you watch the commentary on the show, even the creators say that people would come up to them into the street and yell at them. What is it?
I'm conducting this quiz.
Well, I think it's only fair that in coming to an exam of my PAP, that I get to ask the person who's performing the exam some questions.
No.
Spanakopita!
Oh, okay, that makes sense. That does make sense.
Spanakopita!
All right. What 3 pop icons, this is the second question. What 3 pop icons featured in the showdown at Cremation Creek?
Dearly departed David Bowie, Iggy Pop, and not Klaus Meine, Klaus Nomi.
That's right. Name the character played by Patton Oswalt in the series.
At the episode where they're all going to therapy.
Mm-hmm. And he would definitely need to go to therapy because of who he was partnered with.
Right. Wonder Boy.
That's correct. See? You're doing great.
Thanks for the pity pat.
Pity pap.
I mean, in these dark times, if you can't get a pity pap, what can you get?
What is Dr. Girlfriend's actual first name, and who provided her voice?
So her voice was provided by Doc Hammer, who's one of the creators of the show, male. And I'm thinking of her first name, Sheila.
That's exactly right.
Yes, because nobody else calls her Sheila except for Phantom Limb, the ex-boyfriend, but she does call herself Sheila in moments of talking to herself.
That is exactly right. Name 2 aliases used by Henchman 21.
Henchman 1.
Sure.
His actual name is Gary.
That's correct. We'll accept both of those. We would have also accepted Viceroy.
Oh, yes, he is the Viceroy.
And final question. In Operation Prom, where we first meet General Trester, what is he reading? It's a very specific publication.
It's the comic book from the other episode, right? No. The Venture Home News!
That's right. Yes, that is correct.
Well, this isn't how I normally feel after a PAP exam. I don't feel quite as violated as I normally do. But I do feel like you really kind of got to delve deep into my inner knowledge, and really got to know me and my thoughts a lot better. So it's almost more personal than an internal exam.
All right. Well, Gil Person, thank you so much for coming in for a pop quiz. You've passed with flying colors. We'll see you for your next exam next year.
So now, are you also going to be performing the STI test, or do I have to pay extra for that?
Gil, I'm your husband. I already know where you fall on the standard turtle index, so...
I think the question is, where do you fall on the standard turtle index?
Far afield of Mitch McConnell. Our final segment tonight, as every week, is Person to Person and Person, where we share your valuable feedback with our audience. This week, I'd like to... So we're recording this on a Saturday, and then it won't actually publish until Thursday. But I wanted to, because it is his birthday, wish a very happy birthday to my brother George, and let him know that I love you. He listens to the show when he can. He's a very busy guy, has a couple of kids, and a career in the tech industry. So, George, you are without a doubt my best friend. We'll get together and hang out once this pandemic is over.
All right, and George, I'll be there too. I was not invited. I'm inviting myself.
Folks, that's all the news we have for you tonight. We invite you to participate in Person to Person and Person, and there's so many ways for you to get yourself heard. Send us an email, personandpersonshow@gmail.com. Drop us a voicemail, 541-249-5933. Find us at Twitter, @AnchorPersons, and on Facebook, @PersonandPersonShow. Check out our website, personpersonshow.com. Be sure to like, subscribe, and review our podcast on the podcatchers of your choice. Until next time, this is Gene Person saying you should always end a comedy set with a callback.
And this is Greg Person saying, put fat in your coffee, or don't. Good night.
Is it because I have a cabbage for a head?